Hey guys, what are y'all doing? What about you? Okay then, y'all should be going back to doing that instead of watching this garbage. Anyway, still there? Good, because I got something that you, hang on, we're forgetting something here. I'm so excited, I just can't hide it, that you are really going to want to know. Should have been doing this a long time ago and didn't. So, you know that ever since I abandoned the cigar box guitar world, somebody actually said that. I gave it 200 some videos. If you can't do it from there, I can't help you. And some of the people that started watching me build cigar box guitars, I covet them now. So the circle of life has been completed. Anyway, we do this now. I said we because especially government employees, officials, you ever notice that when they say we made a mistake? No, you made a mistake. We didn't make no mistake. But we buy guitars like this, literally in pieces, Harmony 1215. There's a reason they made 300,000 of them in the 60s in the hopes that one would last. But look at this. This is the biggest deal with these archtop guitars. This is what most of my channel is about putting these things back together. No, I'm not picking my nose while I'm blocking the camera. But, oh, I got this guitar. It's awesome. I've been watching some of the traffic on some of the channels where you get the purists like, why are you doing that to that guitar? Why are you putting a bolt through it? I should be the expert of a $50 guitar and being condescending to people that bought one and got in over their head. Now they're trying to find me, and somebody's like, well, you know, that wasn't the designer's intent. No, the designer's intent was to sell you or your parents a 1995 guitar so you could be introduced to music and shut up at Christmas time and then put it in the attic for me to buy up for an inflated price later. That was the designer's intent, people. Anyway, back to necks. Every time neck is broken loose from the body, there's a gap right there. There is no gap right there. It needs a neck reset. Well, that usually means the back of the guitar on the bottom has come loose, which is causing this to pitch up like this. Or maybe after 70 or 80 years, there was a reason why they made the oldest ones with a point right here. It was like an I-beam. Then everybody complained, oh, my hand is getting hurt. Well, you don't play it anyway. It's in your attic. You haven't touched it in 50 years, and it's still strung up, and that's why it's falling apart and cracking. Anyway, find the playlist about the Archcraft junk pile. By the way, that guitar is actually in the memorial poster of Tammy. It's been through everybody. Frank Goldwasser, Troy Murrah, everybody's played it. I did the binding. I did so much stuff on there. Anyway, anything you need to do to one of those, it's up there. Archcraft junk pile. Anyway, so inevitably somebody will come to you and they'll say this needs a neck reset. So in order to do a neck reset, what do? You pull off this set of fret, this fret right here, because you don't know it until you get inside, but the glue pocket is right there, which means it's right there. So you pull that fret, you drill 2 holes, you put the steam needle to it, and guess what? Half the fingerboard disintegrates. You'll see that on Pumpkin, the junk pile archtop, the whole end of the fingerboard disintegrated. Or I did Rob's first guitar, flat top, ended up being a Quebec, Canada, that kind of theme. It's up there too. I ended up taking off the fingerboard, putting another piece underneath there, and refretting it to correct that the action was too high after I fixed the bridge. Flat tops, that's why I ate them. But it turned out beautiful. It gets included in the Christmas decorations and wins the Ventura, California Cultural Capital World Christmas window decoration contest every year. Yeah, John at Guitar 48 is awesome, but we know what happened now, don't ya? Anyway, big problem. You can't fix the relief on these necks. They have no truss rod. So what do? Think about this. You might take the fingerboard off. While you got the fingerboard off, you might vary the thickness of the fingerboard, the radius of the fingerboard. Are those things that lessen the value of the guitar? No. What are we looking for in fixing up old arch tops? We want to make them better basically by fixing the things that they never had. So what if we were to put a truss rod in something like this? By the way, there's an aircraft flying over that Sepulveda Pass fire still going on. Anyway, so I've already told you, sometimes you have to take out frets, steam off the neck. The steam process makes this all mushy, ruins it. You put a new fingerboard on. While you got the fingerboard on, you could tell the person, listen, I could cut a truss rod into here while I got the fingerboard off. So your fingerboard's going to come back. It's going to be new. It's going to be radius. It's going to be fretted. And your guitar will have a truss rod. So you can adjust this. Does that sound like you're putting bad money into a bad instrument? No, it doesn't to me. So guess what, people? Today, we are going to learn about truss rods, including how to put one in. And I'll tell you what, this one needs to work out because this guitar right here has Mississippi clay, mud, dirt, and Mississippi river water and potassium silicate. It has a license plate on it that has something to do, associates to Tammy and the artist. And this one needs to be roadworthy. It's going to get binding. It's going to get everything. But we're going to use the opportunity here to put a truss rod in here to teach you about truss rods 5 minutes after I learned about them myself by having you watch me on YouTube. Let's hit the bench. I think we're going to go with this angle because it protects you from feeling bad about my beauty. It lets you see this StewMac t-shirt I'm wearing. That's a first. There is a lot of StewMac stuff going on here. This is StewMac Vice. I have a StewMac workstation complete up at the Malibu location. Doesn't that sound important, the Malibu location? But anyway, we're going to see some StewMac stuff here today. But I like this angle because it's better than the overhead autopsy cam for some things. Now, what is a truss rod and what does it look like? Because you can never see one because it's inside the guitar. Well, our friends at camerafallingover.com, there we go. I'm going to leave that in there. That's all part of the on-the-job hazard, right? Okay, let's get some of the scrap apparatus out of here. Our friends over at Ibanez make a fine guitar, and sometimes people at parties, they forget to put their instrument away. There's a rough roadie, and the next thing you know, a neck breaks off. And then I get these, and I set them in the old StewMac Vice. And I open it up, and then I clamp it down where you can see it, like so. And then I take Granny's iron off of hobo hot plate right there. You see that peekaboo view of hobo hot plate with this piece of paper on top of it? Trying to burn down my shed. How's that camera angle? There we go. Anyway, I take that screw apparatus and this screw apparatus, and I decide that I am going to remove the neck off of this so you can see what's underneath here. Ooh, clean one owner. There used to be a truss rod in that groove right there. Do you see that? Now, we don't have to be as careful anymore. This is the truss rod that was in there. Now, the channel that's here was cut by a router. Excuse me, Chick-fil-A Teal Pointer, don't file your union complaint. Please, there is a channel right here that was cut. It is U-shaped. Oh, there's another alarm, something to do about my personal safety. Anyway, see this? Do you see this? You put an Allen wrench in there and you can turn this right here. It's protected by this piece of channel iron, and you can turn this and it causes this to go this way or this way, and it corrects the relief in the neck as long as this is embedded and cannot move into the neck of the guitar. You see that? Now, if this guitar lived for nothing other than to sacrifice this, it did really well, because we're going to want to know how long this is, number one. Next, we're going to notice that right up in this area right here, where the top of the truss rod is, it's slotted out so this part stays where it needs to be, because if this can move inside the neck, it doesn't do its job. So now we can make a planter or some other like artsy fartsy thing, and maybe there's a little tree right there. Okay, I think I introduced this to you in the beginning. It has a fingerboard that is not on it, but it has a truss rod groove cut in it already, and this one right here, flat part up on top, will fit right in there, except for the top here has to be notched out for that odd shape, and we'll get to that in a minute. We have the slot cut here, and we can see that this will fit right down in there and will sit down in there flat if need be. But again, we need to carve this part out where the shoulder sits down in the groove and it stops it from moving up and down. Okay? So I think I've got a good idea. This is probably a pretty good size. It's probably a standard size since Ibanez used it. So maybe we should take a metric measuring device and measure how many centimeters or millimeters this is. Okay. Notice there that there's a bow in this thing right there. You can see daylight. And if I were to turn this, that would go away. We want this to be loose when we put it in. We don't want it to be falling apart, but we don't want it to be tight. We want to make sure that we can use maximum adjustability as one of the criteria, and that means that this would sit flat here like this, see? Because this is the part that actually pushes up. So remember that. Anyway, we measure that and we remember what that is. Nothing. We lay this up here like so, and we make a mark right here and we label this truss rod end. So we're done with this now. Why? Because do you really want to spend $20-some on one of these every time on a guitar that you are trying to fix up that some guy figures out is only worth $300, and you're going to want to charge them with the neck reset and every truss rod and everything, all this stuff. It's going to be worth your customer's money. Don't be one of those guys that does this stuff and then wants the money and pouts and then acts all weird and then drives down the road as fast as they can get away and gets a new cell phone number, which means a new girlfriend, so you can use hers instead of buying your own, right? Anyway, let me move this now, and I want to show you something really cool. Just remember that this truss rod was as long as it was. This, my friends, is a truss rod kit. It has this clubby looking disc cylinder looking thing that's got a hole in it with threads in it. You see that? This is a piece of rod. It is stainless steel rod. It is not threaded except up here on the end. It has an acorn nut, kind of like you would use in a lamp. Okay, see that? It has this washer. This washer is really important. Don't lose it. This goes on here like so. This goes up at the top of the neck. Notice it has all these threads up here. We would do this, something like this, get about that showing, and then we would put this nut here. Notice that the nut is bigger than the rod. It's also bigger than the acorn nut. You see that? They make some of these that have nylon inserts. They don't come apart very easily. This won't come apart very easily because it will be inside the neck of the guitar. Now, there's a slight problem. This nut, where are you, chick flick teal pointer? Wake up, I swear you're going to be fired. I'll call the hall and get a new one. This nut right here and this washer serve the same function as this, which takes an Allen wrench, and it has this offset here, you see. So this whole screw apparatus allows you to turn things, and it embeds itself and keeps itself in place inside the channel for the truss rod up at the end where the headstock is. And the most important thing to remember is this little nut right here. If you have a slot in that in the slot for the truss rod, if you have a little groove running the other way, that nut will drop in there and it will not allow this to pop out. And when you tighten this, it's what will hold the tension. Now, here's our problem. It needs to be this long, but it is this long. You see that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a mark right about there. See that? And then I'm going to cut it off, and I'm going to use a chop saw or one of those abrasive wheel discs or something. And I'm going to use eye protection. Do not lose your eyesight over a $30 yard sale guitar. I'm going to cut that off, and then I'm going to take a belt sander or a file, and I'm going to bevel that edge down. Okay? Now the issue is I'm going to need to get this, which has threads, on the end of this, which has been cut off and tapered right there. So, I want to show you something cool here. This is a vise. You can buy them economically. You can stand it up like this. You can lay it down like this. You can do any number of things in between. Do you see that? Let's get this bag out of the way. Okay? So, I can turn this. Let's say I want to put it up there. And let's say I want to make sure that that washer is up there. In fact, I can take all this stuff off. And then let's say my mark is right here. This vise has a slot in it, which is cool. So then I can take this, I can tighten up everything like so, and I basically have this anywhere where I want to work on it and adjustable one way or the other. Now, I've noticed that no matter how much I tighten this, it's going to want to spin when I do what I'm going to do. So I've got some channel locks. I put those, adjust them right there, where if I try to turn this one way or another, it will stop this from spinning. Then and only then do I take this device that I got on Prime for about $16 to the door. It is a 10 by 32 cutting die inside a holder with these, and it also comes with a tap for the same 10 by 32. There is a wider or tapered end of this. This is not the tapered end. This is just a tad wider. And what you do with this, my friends, even if you're not my friends, I'm going to put this back underneath here to give me some more room, and I can tilt this. You simply put this on the end of the rod that has no threads. Now, I've already done this so you can see it, but you want to make sure that it goes on there straight, and you'll realize that why I had you cut the taper. But once you feel it grab, you're going to take some Marvel Mystery Oil or some mineral oil in a bottle, and you're going to squirt it in there, and you're going to go a half a turn at a time, and you're going to back it out. You're going to clear the threads out, get it on there started good, and then it's going to take a little bit of effort, but you cut your own threads. Now I'm going to keep cutting threads here. Now watch, I'm using this to hold this. And it's going to want to bind up on me. So I'm going to come back, blow that out. Now remember, whenever you're cutting threads or doing that, you are going to have metal pieces coming around. So you just take and knock over your John Sawyer lamp that's set on Chick Flick Teal. Now when the power goes out here, I have to reset up everything. And you take one of your luthier's magnets and you just do this, and it grabs all those threads for you. Get rid of that stuff so it doesn't end up in your eye. Anyway, you'll see here that this stuff cuts threads where you want it. Now, I'm not telling you to do this, and I'm not telling you not to do this. You are going to need this. You are going to need some steel rod. You could also, I guess, use all thread. It would look kind of funny, but you would just have to cut it, put this on, run it down, or a bolt, a nut, excuse me, then make your cut, then back it off and dress it up. But in any event, at the end of the day, when you're done with this, you've taken this thing here and you put this on. There is a piece of thread stuck on there. I can feel it right there. Okay. And also, if you have truss rods that you're working on that have a standard size, you may find that it's necessary to chase those. They might come out of the factory with a little burr on them or whatever you need. Anyway, you just want to put that on there. It's a good time to oil these before you put them in. Anyway, you're going to twist that up to the shoulder where it's going to stop, like so. Pop this off. Pull it out of here. Get this out of the way. pray for me because I'm so good to you. And then pull your guitar up. I want to make sure I tighten this up every time, because the minute I don't, it'll fall out of here, it will break, and it'll be like, oh dude, what did you do? Okay, anyway, remember, if that was going to go right there, then you would simply lay this here, remembering that this is going to be further up here, and then I would just take, by reaching into the wink can, pull out the love pencil, make me a mark there, 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 and there, and I would basically just take out a chisel and make sure that this nestles down into here, and I've got my truss rod in, and then I go ahead and do whatever it is I'm going to do to put the fingerboard on. Okay, now I want to show you, I have put a spot in here with a chisel where this right here drops in right there, like so. You see that? And I've also got this washer right here. It's going to slide down. You see that? That is going to need to go up at the top behind the nut up here. Let me flip this around and show you here. If I don't have something up here that is going to stop this from sliding back, nothing will tighten. So I'm going to bring this all the way up here, which means I need to cut a slot that will drop down into. Now, if there's any slop back and forth here, I'm going to fill that with shim material. And something else I want to tell you is, if there is any slop down in this channel where when you're tightening this, the channel's too deep or too wide, what is going to happen is you're going to lose a lot of threads on this before anything happens. So I want to put whatever I need down in here. Let me show you what that might mean. I have cut a piece of mahogany that will fit down in there, and I've got a couple more to do, and that will take up, I want to take up as much slack as possible, and I want this to sit here, and everything needs to be tight. Now I'm going to pull this up to about here and widen it out only enough for that nut, and then I'm going to come in along the side. Let me show you the mahogany again. Anywhere where I have room where that nut is going to butt up against, I want to reinforce that and keep this really tight. Those truss rods that they have that sit into a groove that are enclosed, those are pretty good because they take care of a lot of the concerns I have here. And so what we've got here is, there was a height problem with the fingerboard and where the pickup height and the surrounds are going to be. We talked about that a minute ago. So we'll put this on here, and I don't know, can you see this over here? Of course not. Let's move this around a little bit. There we go. So now I've got enough room with this mini nurse ratchet straight edge, very heavy, and I have ground down the surrounds and got everything where everything will be right, and I'll give myself a little bit of room because plucking strings and stuff, you don't want anything hitting this, and of course we haven't put the nut on or adjusted the bridge yet, but everything is perfect the way that is sitting now. So what we did to get here was, I put a 1/16 rented lips edge of mahogany on here. Worked this down, and I've got a piece of the same type of mahogany underneath the truss rod and on top of the truss rod. We're not going to glue any of this, but I don't want anything rattling, and I do need the truss rod when we start tightening it. If you've got slop in there, not only will it rattle, but it takes a lot of adjustment if everything isn't shimmed up. I'm not going to glue this on here. I'm going to glue this onto here. I have to go along and scrape this and make sure that my fret work is good and all that. Notice that this is pretty cool. Instead of having fret markers, it's got this wire that's coming wrapped around, and it seems to end right there, and it points to where your fret markers should be. When I asked the person, again, you're going to be surprised at the end of this, how this happened. They said they were putting binding on a fretboard one time and it was draping over and it just hit them. Wait a minute, that can be my fret marker. So we'll see how the feedback comes from the person that's playing this, but this gives me the height I need now. All right, in the words of the immortal Jessie Mae Hemphill, all right. So, was that really that hard? No. I would like to thank my friends at Stumac, because regardless of what you want to do, you can buy these for any kind of configuration, acoustic, electric, arch top. They have one of these for anything you want to use it for. They also have these in an adjustable link for economical means for you to buy something, or you can run around and chase your own parts down, and they've basically shown you how to do it. They're not going to stay in business by nickel and diming people to make sure that something with a nut and threads on it is proprietary. That's right, proprietary. So, guys, think about it. Get a piece of wood, get a router bit, build a little jig that allows you to, maybe I should do an episode about that. Say something if you want that, where I just take a handheld plunge router and figure out how to do a jig that will allow you to set everything up for the neck, get the headstock angle out of the way, and just cut in a truss rod groove, and then put something like this in. Practice on scrap wood, get one of these and use it, and when you're all done you can use it on a real guitar. But anyway, it will, if you are serious about telling somebody, especially if they got a guitar that they want to use to kind of introduce into the show, you give the drummer and everybody else a break, you do some acoustic thing, you pull out something that everybody's going to go, wow, what's that? That's a $19 Sears catalog guitar. But you're giving them something that they can depend on, that's not going to fall apart. So you people out there cussing me about bolting on a neck to keep it right, you got to go back and cuss the dude who had a name, I believe it wasn't Macaulay, but it was something like that at Gibson when they come out with the truss rod. It's a bolt going through the neck, isn't it? I don't know. Anyway, guys, I hope I helped you out here. This is one of those things that seems to be really daunting, but it's not. If I can do it, you can do it. I'll see you next time. Check that like box. Make some weird comment. The algorithm can't even read what you write. Make it incendiary. Punk me. Everybody else will be like, oh, wow, dude, it creates controversy. It creates hits, and instead of making $2.23 a month, it might get up over $3.50 a month, and I need that. That's the least you can do.